Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock. Let's go over the market. Let's talk about what is happening to Tesla stock, what we can expect moving into what, should be a pretty big week next week. Remember, Thursday, we have the shareholder event approval, if you will, of Elon's comp plan. So for better or for worse, next week is a big week. So all that being said and done, let's jump into it. I'll give you my thoughts moving forward as well, what I personally believe can happen next for Tesla stock. So yeah, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice and I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, updates, etc. Well, again, I do share my thoughts with our members every single day as the market is open. So definitely check that out. That is, of course, in the description of the video. Just click the first link right down here and you get access to that page where, again, if you want to join, you get access. If you want to join, you use this page right here. For just $3 a month, you get access to all my Tesla updates, options flow, technical analysis, different time frames, etc., and broader market updates, SPY, things like that, etc., etc., etc. $5 a month, of course, includes NVDA in there as well, if you're interested in NVIDIA updates as well. And of course, $7 for the tier 3 is the whole package. You get access to everything, right? Also, my tier 3 posts on YouTube, of course, essentially other stocks in the market that are, setting up nicely and looking pretty juicy. And of course, access to our private Discord. We have a, tier 3 chat room there. Members are day trading, constantly sharing thoughts. Sometimes, of course, I also talk in there and say, things that I don't always post on YouTube necessarily. And of course, access to my every Sunday chart requests with members that I do, chart reviews for. So yeah, we'd love to have you there. Definitely check it out if you're interested. But jumping into a Tesla, closing the day up a nice 3.74% on the day, recouping a good portion of those losses from yesterday, most of the losses from yesterday, which is a good sight to see. But the question is, of course, well, what happens from here? Well, you can see, notice how, when we got to the bottom of this kind of bull flaggy descending channel, we ended up getting that 1 hour SMI towards the bottom of the range. We got that nice push up, got rejection right near that pretty much top of the descending channel / bull flag. So far, so good. We got a massive rejection. And honestly, we actually got a pretty powerful recovery towards the end of the day, right? Very nice strength over here on Tesla stock. So what does this actually mean moving forward? Well, the way I'll be looking at Tesla is as follows. Technically, we haven't actually broken out yet. We're extremely close. And honestly, aside from a potential gap down Monday, so as long as Tesla doesn't substantially gap down Monday, and especially if it gaps up Monday, that would be a very positive development actually, right? So if Tesla gaps up Monday, let's say to 458 or something like that, right? That would be pretty damn good because that would be, very much looking like a breakout on this 1 hour kind of bull flaggy type situation, right? Maybe this was a pennant all along, right? Again, you never really know. This is why I always say the bottom in a downward channel or like a bullish correction, if you will, or bullish retracement, the bottom line technically never really matters because, maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe we're actually in this sort of pennant instead. And congratulations, now, we're looking to break out. We don't really know, right? That's why the bottom line is never as important because what really matters is breaking this top line. That's the main resistance one, right? Once we break out of this one, that's when we can start moving upwards. So again, as long as Tesla doesn't get a gap down Monday, and if it does, that could be a problem because we're still technically at a resistance here. We haven't technically broken out yet, despite being, almost as close as it gets, really. That's going to be the thing to watch. So again, a gap up Monday, yeah, most likely a small little retest, and then we head higher. And in my opinion, this little kind of bull flag or pennant, whichever it is, should send Tesla, in my opinion, closer to the 480s. Honestly, potentially even retesting, maybe even making new all-time highs. Probably, honestly, maybe by next week, assuming the shareholder vote goes well and things get approved, which I'd be surprised if they don't. But assuming it gets approved, I really wouldn't be surprised if, honestly, maybe even by Friday next week, so a week from today, we see all-time highs on Tesla. It's really not out of the realm of possibilities, right? It's really not. But this will require some nice follow through on Monday, at least in my opinion. Because again, if we get a gap down on Monday, then we're still technically at a resistance point. We haven't actually broken out. And this could continue to lead to that one final push lower. Like I said, closer to my downward target, which is going to be that gap fill at around the mid 430s, closer to the bottom end. If this is actually a bull flag and channel that we're in as opposed to a pennant, that would bring us down to this situation down all the way over here. And of course, that is also where the Fibonacci's sit as well, where that 618 Fibonacci, the red one here, you can see, is sitting as well. So this would be that kind of downward side target if this breakout doesn't actually occur on Monday. So let's just see how Monday goes, guys. Let's see how Monday opens up. You kind of have the game plan I just mentioned, right? So just, let's see how it goes. I mean, there's no reason to try and bring out a crystal ball and try to, let's just see how it goes, right? Let the levels decide for us. Let the, the strength or weakness decide for us what seems to be the next likely outcome for Tesla stock. But the good news is, as long as something crazy doesn't happen, like for instance, Elon's comp plan gets voted down, for instance, aside from something like that, I do view that regardless of the path that we take, whether it's straight up from here and we go higher, or we do get the rejection, and then we go higher. I do view both pathways as of right now to ultimately resolve higher, right? That's kind of my current game plan. It's just a matter of, do we get this one more dip right here or not? That's kind of the question that we're still asking, right? That we don't really have an answer to, especially since we haven't broken out yet. While we're still within this downward channel, at least again, I'm assuming it's a downward channel. Like I said, this could just be a pennant. Again, you never really know, right? That's the thing. You never really know which one it is. It is how it is, right? That's just how things go, which is why the top trend line is the only one that really matters, because guess what's the same? Whether it's a pennant or whether it's a downward channel, guess which trend line is the same? This one, right? This one doesn't change. It doesn't matter which pattern it is. That still is the same trend line, and that still needs to get broken above, right? That's kind of the point I'm trying to make, where the bottom one, it doesn't really matter that much. But anyway, so let's see how that goes, guys. Let's see how that goes. So watch for, in my opinion, 2 days high. Yeah, 4, 5, 7.5 roughly. Watch for that range. Above that, I think the breakout begins. Below that still, especially with the gap down, we could still face one more low down here, at which point I still expect it to resolve higher ultimately. So let's see how it goes. But yeah, the 1 hour time frame, or 1 hour SMI, I should say, the SMI is getting towards the top range of the spectrum here, if you will. But more importantly, the 4 hour, right? What's the 4 hour suggesting us, right? You can argue that this wedge has already played out, and if it hasn't, then that's that one more low. So we'll see. It doesn't really matter that much anymore, because now we have that 1 hour pattern to look for. But you can see the 4 hour SMI, back when we were up here, it was very, very overbought. Now we're getting this small little correction with that potential still for one more low. But you can see the 4 hour SMI is already near the middle of the area, right? It's already cooling off, which is a good sign, right? So even if we happen to break out prematurely, in my opinion, right on that 1 hour time frame starting Monday, this already has room to go higher, right? This already has room for us to make its way higher without this SMI being severely invalidated, if that makes sense. So it's already cooled off, which is the good sign, right? That's good news. Now, if we make our way down lower, this would be that, ultimate zone where the SMI will really cool off, and then it really has a lot of space to go higher, especially with the stock to go higher as well. But again, it's really just a matter of which path do we take. I personally still, I do believe that we still head higher from here. I do believe that this ultimately will resolve higher. It's just a matter of which path do we take, right? So let's see how that goes. But that's pretty much the main thing I want to talk about. The daily is still looking pretty good. We're holding the 21 EMA right now. The MACD is still red. That's my only main concern, and it's still pretty elevated. That's, if I had a concern, that would be the concern. So, it's worth watching. But based on how all the other timeframes are looking, I do still believe that we are looking more bullish than not. Again, it's just a matter of do we make that one more low to 435-ish or so or not. And the final thing to talk about is, of course, the weekly. Now, the weekly has finally closed above those pesky green Fibonacci's, right? We've been talking about these green Fibs for some time, like, I don't know, a month and a half at this point now, because we kept getting rejected. Any push up above, we got rejected, smacked back down, and we just continued closing at or below these green Fibonacci's. Now we actually closed above the green Fibonacci's. That is a positive development, right? It's hard to look at that and not be at least somewhat bullish off of that, right? Absolutely, right? That is a very nice development. This is definitely, showing some levels of strength on the weekly time frame, which is all good news. And the final thing I want to talk about is the monthly. We officially have closed October. October is done. November begins on Monday, right? Unless I'm severely mistaken, which I'm not. Tesla's setting up very nicely on the monthly as well. Now it's, again, it's a little bit extended on the monthly here. You can see we're all the way up here at 454, the monthly 9 EMA, which it'll move up significantly next month, of course. But even then, it'll still be probably around the 380s. So we're pretty still, distant away from that. But overall, Tesla is setting up what looks to be a very large cup and handle pattern with an arguable breakouts last month and this month as well. So if let's just say something really bad happens, let's say I'm completely wrong and the stock actually tanks down substantially. The worst case I still see on Tesla stock, if things just really go badly, like this is like things don't go well at all. Maybe the plan gets voted down. I don't know. I don't know what reason could exist for this to happen. But if it were to happen, and this is kind of just to brace yourself so that, if this kind of, quote unquote, worst case scenario, that's bullish worst case scenario that happens, you're prepared for it, would be a monthly overall pullback retest of this overall zone. You can see resistance here. You can argue we got a small retest of it here on the monthly time frame, but a stronger monthly retest back down to about the, kind of mid to high 390s ish would be not completely unexpected, right? That could be a potential still. Get a nice strong retest of this overall zone that was a massive resistance, and then we head higher from there. That to me is like the worst case bullish alternative, where it's like, if things just really don't go well, we'll most likely see signs earlier on like the daily time frame, the 4 hour, the 1 hour. One of those will usually give us these signs that that's going to happen most likely. But it is worth mentioning that, if just for whatever reason something happens, who knows what, and we get that kind of deeper retest, it will still be a bullish retest, because especially on the monthly time frame, this we have technically broken out of this major resistance. We didn't really go higher than, especially down up here, of course, but the more important thing is that we're closing monthly candles above this range, right? Candles that we really couldn't do before, right? We kept getting rejected. For instance, here we got rejected in a substantial drawdown, but now we're actually showing bullish pressure up here. So all these factors are actually positive developments, right? It's worth mentioning that even if the kind of bullish worst case scenario happens and we get that retrace back down to the mid to high 390s, that's still bullish, right? That'll be still very, very bullish. I will still view that as a bullish retest to ultimately go higher from there anyways. But that also will retest that 9 EMA on the monthly, which would be also a good sight to see. But again, one step at a time. This is the monthly. These take time. It's not going to happen, tomorrow or next week. It's a monthly candle, right? So it'll take time. But this is just, again, more just so if it happens, if shit hits the fan essentially, and it happens very quickly, look back to this perspective right here and realize that, maybe it's actually not that bad. In fact, it's a bullish retest. So worth mentioning, guys, worth mentioning. But nonetheless, overall, that's kind of how I see things moving into next week. So let's see how, it overall plays out. On Tesla options flow, what do we have over here? Well, we have some nice bullish flow overall. We have an 800K 340 put for next week. But again, this is that one person I think that, we've seen them many times where they just get a very aggressive, very out of the money weekly puts on Tesla and sometimes NVDA. And it never hits. Again, I don't know what's going on with that. But nonetheless, overall, the flow has been more bullish than bearish ultimately, right? 1.3 million 420 call November 21st, 7.9 million 460 call December 19th. So, things are looking pretty decent overall. And the very last thing I want to talk about is going to be the broader market. Let's go back to the daily on SPY. SPY is, looking pretty decent still, man. I mean, it came back down to that 9 exponential moving average. It is no longer severely overextended like it was up here. It's holding this now, bullish trend line that was trend line support for quite some time, then act as a resistance, and now we broke above it and we're turning it back into support. So overall, the market, in my opinion, still looks pretty decent. The VIX is still getting rejected by the orange line, so things are still looking good for bulls, right? But watch for the VIX. If the VIX starts holding above 17.5 to 18, we could start seeing a bit more pressure to the downside across the markets in general. So that is worth mentioning. But as of right now, it is still being sort of tamed down below that orange line. So the market still looks pretty good to me overall. But all in all, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Peace.